Hey, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society Podcast, reminding you that this podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. Check out all the other great podcasts on the network at selfdefenseradio.net.
Where gun culture meets the gospel. This is Armed Lutheran Radio.
Hi folks, welcome to Armed Lutheran Radio, a show about guns, hunting, competitive shooting, the natural right of self-defense, and what God's Word says about the issues surrounding gun rights and gun ownership. I'm your host, Lloyd Bailey, the Armed Lutheran, and this is episode number 164. Thank you for making Armed Lutheran Radio a part of your week. I'm so glad you are joining us again. This week is our fifth Sunday special, and that means that, my contributors have the week off, and you will be visiting with a special guest. Amanda Suffecool is the co-host of Eye on the Target Radio, another member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. She's a firearms instructor from a family of firearms instructors, a gun rights advocate, a radio raconteur, and she's got a really cool event coming up at the end of April that we're going to be talking about. But first, let's talk about money. The love of money, they say, that is the root of all evil. St. Paul writes that a miser is an idolater, a worshiper of a false god. Well, here at Armed Lutheran Radio, we stand ready to help you with this idolatry. You can send some of that loot to us, and in return, we will provide you with more of the Christ-centered pro-gun content that you've come to know and love. Join the Reformation Gun Club for $1, $2, $5 a month, and get access to lots of exclusive content and some cool Armed Lutheran swag, and the satisfaction of knowing that you helped make this show possible. Check it out today at armedlutheran.us/gun club. All right, Amanda Suffecool is our guest. Welcome back to Armed Lutheran Radio.
Oh, well, thanks very much for having me.
It is great to have you back. It's been too long.
I was looking. It was like 2 years ago.
I know.
How time flies.
It has been an amazing 2 years since then. You've been very, very busy. What is new with you and Eye on the Target Radio?
Well, since we last talked on the air, because we've talked since person to person, face to face.
Yeah.
But since on the air, Eye on the Target Radio has gone nationally syndicated. And so September of 2018, we were picked up by the Salem Radio Network. And I have to say, when people say, what does it feel like? I'm like, if I had a tail, I would be wagging it. I am that thrilled by this opportunity.
It is awesome.
It really is. And then I got to find out that I'm like the first female nationally syndicated pro Second Amendment female radio host that is not in the NRA the NRA library of. So
right.
Unique and individual and kind of that thing, because you can't really count Dana Lash as you can,
right.
But you can't. But
right.
Even then, if I'm second, I would even take second. But it's a great place to be.
I started to say, not a bad position to be in. Talk about, for those who have not listened to Eye on the Target Radio, and shame on you, if you haven't, tell everybody a little about Eye on the Target Radio, what you do, how often you're on, where they can find you, and how you got started doing this podcasting and radio thing.
Yeah, it's crazy how we got started. So I'll start with how we got started. My brother is my co-host, and he is a gun guy extraordinaire. People talk to him about a gun, and they can talk to him on the radio, and he will tell them what gun, who it was made by, just amazing amount of history and facts. He really can. So what happened was we started. Both he and I work in manufacturing and in industry. So I'm an engineer. He's a tool and die maker. And I found myself at a crossroads in my career one time and said, I don't know what I'm going to do. And he said, if I got to do whatever I wanted to do, meaning him, he says, I would open a firearms training school. And I'm like, you're crazy. That's crazy talk. There is no money in firearms training schools. And he said, oh, I think there is. So I sat down and wrote a business plan to prove him wrong. The next thing I know, I am running a firearms training school because he wasn't wrong. And this was right before the state of Ohio started to pass or was managed to pass their concealed carry laws that happened in 2004. And so as we did that, and we were doing the firearms training school, and that was all going on, we started to try to advertise. And as we started to try to advertise, the radio station local to us said, hey, the law is changing. Why don't you come on and tell us what's going on? So we came on for a 15-minute segment that turned into 3 hours. Right. People kept calling in and asking questions, and we could answer the questions, and they were amazed that we knew the answers. Well, it was 168 pages of really dry read, but okay, we read it, we knew it, and we could answer the questions. So after that, I guess people wrote into the radio station and said, we need a show like that. So the radio station contacted us and asked us if we would do a show once a month for an hour. And that's really how we were born. So Eye on the Target Radio started out in 2010 at 1 hour per month. And then we went to 1 hour per week. Then we went to 2 hours per week. And then we went to national syndication. So, and people are like, guns, how can didn't you run out of stuff to talk about? We're like, no.
Not even close.
Not even close. There's way lots of stuff to talk about. So that's really kind of how it came about. And so it's a call-in question and answer show where we discuss topics, we discuss current events, we have guests, and people are invited to call in and ask questions. And we'll field them from there and see if we know the answer or get them the answer or tell them where they can go to get the answer. Answers come in a variety of packages. And so that's pretty much what we do.
Yep. And I was honored to be on your show this past, let's see, it would have been a week before last. Yep. So very cool. And you guys put on some really cool events every year. Before we get to the big one that's coming up at the end of April, let's talk about the Preppers Ball, which I think is one of the coolest things I've ever heard of. Tell us how that got started and what that's all about.
Well, I have to say, everything that we do, I swear, everything we do is an accident. It happens because somebody asks a question. And then we were like, well, somebody ought to do something about that. And then the next thing I know, Rob looks at me and he's like, well, you're somebody. And then darn it, we're doing something. And it just happens and happens and happens that way. So the Preppers Ball came about that way. And people are like, why did you name it the Preppers Ball? Well, we didn't want it to be intimidating. We wanted you to have a good time. It's not like we were having a cotillion or anything, but we had vendors and we were giving away as we run a 501c3 not-for-profit that does firearms and firearms education in the state of Ohio. And so we said, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it big. So we started the first year with our treasury having pretty much $10 in it, and committed to giving away $10,000 worth of prizes.
That's just a little. You were just a little short starting out.
We didn't have the money to cover it, and we were like, well, we can make this work. And so we started talking to people, and we started to do stuff, and we were good enough, I guess, at waving our arms around and saying, in my mind, it looks like this, that we broke even the first year. It was fabulous. Wow. And then at the peak, we had 575 people come to the Preppers Ball. That's how big it got. But we would give away $10,000 worth of, and they were prepping type prizes, but it's not like the TV shows, the hardcore preppers. It's, can you live in your house for 5 days without power? What do you need?
Right.
Good coolers, chainsaws, generators, we did a big camping wood stove. just guns, ammo, cookware, all of that kind of stuff. And then we invited speakers to come in and educate. So we had people to teach us how to make soap. We had people, beekeepers and hand-to-hand combat and security and fences and raising goats and hybrid tomatoes and whatever that you may want to. So it's kind of like a cross between a gun show and Foxfire, the 1970s books, and we looked at it saying, if we wanted to know it, we figured you wanted to know it. And so we found somebody to teach us all. And that's how the Preppers Ball came about. Yeah.
Very neat. Now, tell us about the event where people can bring their guns and get them appraised.
Oh, that's the Firearms Appraisal Fair. And I want to encourage everybody who's listening to do this in your community because it is the best thing that you could possibly do. Well, what we do is we reach out to all of the local gun shops and we invite them all. And we go to the local VFW, and because of the VFW is a not-for-profit, they need to do community events. And so we partnered with them for this community events in a manner to where they would let us use their venue. We would have all these gun shops come and set up tables all around the perimeter. And we invited everybody to come to the event, bring whatever guns you've got that you inherited, that you bought, that somebody gave you, that whatever that you didn't know what its value was. You didn't know if it was in fireable condition. You wanted to know more information about it. And what would happen is that we told all the gun shops, no buying, no selling. You could hand your business card and you could have somebody come to your shop, but this is not a gun show. This is not a buy, sell, trade. This is solely information and education. So people would come saying, here is what I have. What's it worth? And we got to see some of the coolest guns. We're on our 7th year of doing this. And what happened, it started when a gal called our radio station and said that her husband had died and he had guns and she didn't know what to do with them. And so she called the local police and she said, I have these guns and I want to know how to get rid of them.
Oh,
they said to her, you can bring them here.
That usually doesn't turn out.
So she did. She went to the police with the guns. She didn't ask the wrong question and they didn't give her the wrong answer. But the combination of the two was not financially beneficial for her because she took her guns there and she dropped them off and they took them. They were willing to do that. But she did not get any financial recourse, but she didn't ask for any. But she didn't know she could. She didn't know how to get rid of them. She didn't know what their value was. She didn't know what their worth was. So what we said was, this is crazy and let's help the community. It's almost a t-shirt. It's that t-shirt that says, I sure hope my wife sells my guns for what they're worth, not what I told her I paid for them. Right? So our goal is that we can educate people so that they have an idea of what it's worth and then they can make a decision. We've all heard those heartbreaking stories where a guy dies and his friends, and I'm doing air quotes, his friends show up and say, Harvey would have wanted me to have this, or Harvey promised me that, or I can get rid of these. And this is her estate. This is her inheritance. In some cases, this is her retirement and her livelihood. That it just was not the right thing. And so by us being able to provide this education through the neighborhoods and through our community, we decided that was a very helpful thing that we could do. And it has been very, very well received, very well received. The gun shops have a great time with it. The people coming in really have a good time with it. The newspapers publish that we're doing it. It's a great community benefit just across the board as a very pro-gun, pro-education, and pro-community service.
That is very cool. So tell us finally the main point, the reason that you're here today is this concealed carry fashion show event that you have coming up at the end of April. This is not the first one of these that you've done. Tell everybody about these events and how you how they got started and what's coming up at the end of April.
Okay. Well, remember when I said that most things happen by accident? 2014, we were teaching classes and people kept saying, gals predominantly, kept saying, well, where do you carry? How do you carry? What's your holster look like? And how do you hide your gun? And as you're answering the questions, I'm like, I can tell you how I do it, but I dress different than you do. I'm taller than you are, or I'm shorter than you are, or I'm heavier than you are, or I'm lighter than you are. I'm different than you are, which means that the options that work for me don't necessarily work for you. And then when you look at it, men and women are shaped completely differently. So what works for a guy doesn't work for a gal. So we talked about it and said, we really ought to have a fashion show. A concealed carry fashion show to show what you can't see. Because the other part is when you get a concealed carry license, your very first license, your very first opportunity to carry a gun, I swear you feel like you've got this giant neon sign that points at some part of your body saying, she's got a gun, look here, beep,
Right.
beep, beep, pointing at it. So the premise is if we could show people what they couldn't see, they would see that they couldn't see it and that what they were doing was working.
Right.
And so that was where we started. In our state, in the state of Ohio, 1 in 14 adults has a concealed carry license.
Wow.
No, I don't see people carrying guns. I hardly ever notice a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, and I think I'm fairly super aware of guns and people and gear and stuff, but I don't see it. So that was the premise and that was the point. So since then, we did that one in Independence. We've done them in Cleveland, Ohio. We've done them in Chicago. We've just kind of done these fashion shows all over the place. And this year, well, let me go backwards before I get to this year, because last year 2017 was a primo year. 2017, we did one in Cleveland. And about the time that we started to set up, and it was in conjunction with the group, the Friends of NRA and the Cleveland-based Friends of NRA group and their banquet. So we were doing it then, and I get a call from Vice TV saying that they would like to embed themselves in our fashion show because their readers or listeners or TV watchers are interested. And so we signed on to do an hour-long documentary about the concealed carry fashion show. They came in and they followed the models, they followed the designers, they met us at the fashion show and did everything. It took sheer bravery because it was like, this is Vice.
Exactly.
I finally told the producer of Vice, I'm like, look, I'm handing you my baby. Right? You can take really good care of my baby, or you can throw my baby in the ditch. Right? And I can't control how you treat my baby. I just can control how I'm going to respond later. But I have to trust you with it. So I'm going to. And it was terrific. I mean, Vice is not, they're fairly liberal. They're not pro-gun. They did as fair and balanced a show as they possibly could. There was some pendulum swinging a little bit to the left, and then some pendulum swinging a little bit to the right. So it was really fairly well balanced.
Cool.
I was thrilled with that. When we got done with it ran, and when it ran, Susan LaPierre saw it, looked me up, and called me to tell me that she saw it. That's how good it was. It was like, oh, this is terrific. And since then, the NRA hired me to produce and show them how to do a fashion show. So I helped them do the Milwaukee show for Carry Guard. And now this year, we are actually doing a show in Indianapolis on the weekend of the NRA annual meeting. So the Saturday of the annual meeting, we are hosting a concealed carry fashion show. So that's the long story about what are we doing. and why are we doing it?
So what are you expecting this year? This is the big stage. I mean, you've gotten from sort of like the opening act at Carry Guard sort of to now you're at the big meeting. What are you expecting this year is going to be like compared to previous years?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Rob laughs at me because it's in my head. This is how this is going to look. so, so he's really afraid of what's in my head. I mean it. But we're hoping, our venue should hold 350, 400 people. We're really hoping that we get that kind of a turnout. We have some really terrific sponsors that are working with us to say that they're engaged, they want to be with us, and that is just going like gangbusters. So the what is Technica? Alien Gear has a new female line of clothing that is coming out.
Clothing?
Yes.
Okay.
It is
All right.
concealed carry clothing that is designed to work with and around your concealed carry holsters and items. That's the cool part. We've got them. We've got Gun Mamas. Those are both our bigger sponsors for the show. So we're going to have gals walk the runway, guys and gals. Actually, it's 25% guys, 75% gals, and they will be walking the runway. They will be showing what you can't see. Then they will be doing their exposure. So we're so pleased.
Wait a minute.
They're going to show the gun. They're going to show the gun. They're going to show the gun. They're going to show the holster. They're not going to expose anything else.
Not that kind of exposure.
No. No. So
this isn't going to end up looking like, Masad Ayub in that video where he pulls 75 guns out of his coat, right? Or is it?
I've seen that. I'm telling you, good gear matters. And
yes.
So I think what you're going to see is anything from like purses from Gun Totin' Mama to the variety of clothing from the tactical line, which is the Alien Gear line. And then you're going to see, like, we've got Dean Adams coming on board. We've got Offhand Gear coming on board. So you're going to see holsters, you're going to see purses, and you're going to see, I don't know, Lloyd, I don't know if you realize, but you're a guy.
Yeah, I figured that out.
Okay. So have you looked at the line of like corset holsters and undergarment holsters and what's available?
Not really. We used to have a sponsor that sold a couple of different lines of that stuff, and we talked to them about it. But I haven't done extensive research.
If you want to see something really cool, do a Google search for the Dean Adams. Anna from Dean Adams does this thing where, and I'm sure some of your listeners have seen this, where she walks up to the camera and she's wearing a pencil skirt, carrying a tiny little handbag.
Yes.
And then she pulls out a couple guns and a couple knives and a flashlight and a couple extra magazines, all of that.
Yep.
Her gear is going to be there, and she's got a new male line of this same type of gear to help you conceal in a variety of ways. So there is so much real creative products available now that hold your gun so that it stays put, it stays there safely, covers the trigger guard. You don't have to worry about any of that kind of stuff. It's good quality gear for concealed carry, which is all that all ties together. And it's just, and when you get to see it in this kind of an atmosphere, it's lighthearted and it's fun and it's educational. And so And it's just different than just going and walking a gun show where you're like, okay, there's another black gun. There's another black gun. Oh, there might be a silver one. No, here's another, you know.
Or you see all the gear, the holsters or the corset things,
Right.
but it's all laid out on
Uh-huh.
a table, so you can't really get an idea of how it
Right.
works
Yeah, it
on the
looks like
human
Flat
body.
Stanley. It
Yeah.
doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't have anything else. And one of the other things that we do with our fashion show is that we do it in a manner to where we're using models from size 8 to size 22. Because guess what? When you're looking around the gun show, we
Mhm.
are from size 8 to size 22. You know,
Exactly.
we're all different shapes, all different sizes, and we all have the same need to carry concealed, to defend ourselves, defend our families, and to do it safely. So that's kind of how we put the whole program together.
As we kind of wrap things up, talk for a moment about how the options for women have changed since you just in the years that since you started doing these fashion shows. Talk about the improvement that you've seen in gear for women.
Well, when the first year that we did a fashion show, we actually did an introduction spoof off of, I don't know if you remember the 80s commercial from Wendy's where it was a gal it was with a Russian accent, a gal in a gray house dress talking about daytime wear and evening wear. She's wearing the same exact dress, and when she got to evening wear, she had a flashlight, right? I mean, that was the difference. So we did this spoof on that because in the beginning, if you were carrying a gun, you were doing it with a photographer's vest. And so we had a photographer's vest on somebody that was wearing swimwear. We had one wearing daywear, and we had one with an evening gown and a photographer's vest because nobody would notice. But that was really, really sort of where it was. The line was, if you wanted to make it for women, just shrink it and pink it. So make it a little smaller, paint it pink, and they'll just flock right there and buy it all. It doesn't really work that way.
Nope.
The quality of gear has changed. The how you carry, where you carry, what options are available to you, those things have all changed.
And it's no longer just men trying to create products for women. We've
No.
got so many women who are starting companies and creating products and selling
Right.
awesome products that are specific to women, that men couldn't come up with because we just don't have the body geometry.
Right. I mean, I'm pretty sure that you're not gonna come up with flashbang, right?
No,
I mean,
exactly.
the concept and they're like, "Where'd the name come from?" Well, you pull up your shirt, the first thing that people think is, "Ah, flash."
Right.
And that's where it came from. But yeah.
Well, tell everybody where they can find out more about the Concealed Carry Fashion Show and the dates and where they can find out more about Eye on the Target Radio.
Okay, so the easiest thing to do is go to the website Eye on the Target Radio, EYE. So eyeonthetargetradio.com. That will take you to the archives to be able to listen to the show. That'll hit you on the listen live button. And if you go to the blog, then there's information about the fashion shows. So that's the one-stop shop. If you want to go specifically for the fashion show, we are partnering in Indy with the Indiana State Rifle and Pistol Association. So their website is isrpa.org. So Indiana State Rifle and Pistol Association.org. So ISRPA. So Eye on the Target Radio, go to the blog, it'll give you a link, it gets you all there. So if you just spend your time on the eyeonthetargetradio.com website, there's all different kinds of things that you can find there, including the fashion show and the radio.
And they can always get there from the Self-Defense Radio Network website, sdrn.us. Just click on the logo for Eye on the Target Radio, and you'll find a link to the website and all your social media. Amanda, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show again. I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon, and I hope this event goes really, really well.
Well, Lloyd, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And that's all the time we've got for today, folks. Thank you for listening. If you've got any questions, any comments about this or any other show, visit our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Next week is our variety show again with Mia Anstein, Sergeant Bill, and Pastor Bennett. I hope you'll join us. Until then, keep shooting, keep praying. We'll talk to you next time.
For show notes, be sure to visit our website at www.armedlutheran.us. Check out the Facebook page, The Armed Lutheran, or join our Facebook group, Fans of Armed Lutheran Radio. If you like what you hear, please leave us a comment on our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback or a review on iTunes and let us know what you think. Thank you for listening to Armed Lutheran Radio.